everyone, and welcome to the Blood and Pigment Podcast. My name is Garrett Swader, and I'm here with Dan,
Hello.
Joseph,
Hello there.
and newcomers Jason
Hello.
and Riley.
Hello, hello.
Almost a full crew.
Yeah, almost. We're doing this a little bit early in the morning, so if you hear us being a little groggy, that's the reason. But we are here to talk about Adepticon. We just this past weekend, we attended Adepticon and did a whole lot of stuff there, a lot of work, a lot of fun too. We are going to talk about that, go over that, and go through our experiences and comments, complaints, concerns, anything like that. I can throw it over to Jason to give an event overview right now.
Sure. This is, I think, the third Adepticon that we've attended as a Blood and Pigment crew, so we've definitely learned and grown a lot. The first year in Schaumburg, Illinois, we were kind of in the back 40 with the historicals, and this year we moved to Milwaukee, and unfortunately we were a little bit in the back 40, but it was a great event overall. We've had just about every game system Firelock makes represented this year. Tried to
Scurvy dice. We got to do a scurvy dice table next year.
No scurvy dice and no blood and steel, but just about everything else that was a miniatures game was represented. So we set out in the beginning this year to try to make an effort in that regard and try to get some more representation than just Oak and Iron and Blood and Plunder, which is primarily what we've done in the past and what my personal focus is. But we recruited, I think before the convention we had 14 or 15 people, and then by the end we've had some people just kind of show up and help, or able to help for a few slots rather than run a full game necessarily. But I think we had 19 or 20 people in and out of our area for Firelock, so that was really good. We ran a ridiculous number of demos, I would say. We had 4 sessions. We basically ran demos every hour on the hour from 8:30 to 12:30. Slots for 16 people in Blood and Plunder, 4 for Blood and Valor, 4 to 8 for Oak and Iron. So we were cranking people through as fast as they could. We didn't have anybody that showed up pretty much got a demo, I think, unless they came after the time slots where we had that. Also had a lot of tournament stuff that we'll talk about here in a little bit, but the new location in Milwaukee was, I think, probably a great step forward. I think Adepticon made the right decision by moving. Parking is better, food's better, hotel options were much more plentiful, and I think just the spaced out venue was good as a whole. I don't know if anybody else had any thoughts on that.
I liked it better than Schaumburg. And like you said, the food options were a little closer and a little better than Schaumburg, I think.
Yeah, I'm inclined to agree.
We didn't have to jump in cars and go find food like we did in Schaumburg the year before. So that was really nice that we could just get out and walk. As cold as it was still nice to just be able to do that.
For you Southern boys, at least.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't that cold on a few nights though. It was pretty nice on a few nights.
It was nice to feel like a downtown instead of a business park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although that comes with cons as well. But overall, yeah, I like the new venue a lot, and it looks like they have space to grow instead of bulging at the seams, and it's all in one location rather than 2 buildings, which feels quite terrible. Brand new facility too, which also came with pros and cons. Stupid wall.
Well, that wall isn't older, but we had some technical difficulties in setting up. This year there was a retractable wall that kind of went right through the middle of our tables, and it jammed. And so it wasn't removed until probably midday on the first day, which kind of gave a weird division to our games. But we worked around it and adapted it, and I think we got through it okay.
Overcame.
As in tradition, we always get screwed over setting up at the beginning.
Yeah, none of our tables were set up Wednesday night, so we just had to find tables and set them up ourselves.
Yeah, so there was a dinner going on Wednesday night that we what do you think? Like a quarter of our tables we could set up.
Yeah, probably
The
Yeah,
a
rest of
quarter
them
or a
absolutely.
third.
were scheduled to be set up behind the wall. I don't even know what that dinner
Three
was
quarters of our
for.
table were behind the wall, so it was
Yeah,
a challenge.
yeah.
And that kind of shaped how we were set up all weekend. So we were away from the front door because we set up all the heavy duty tables like the demos and the historicals with all the terrain and everything. We had to set them up that night. So we set them up there and then we didn't want to move them. So yeah, kind of messy and unfortunate, but it shouldn't happen again, right?
Sure.
Knocking on wood.
Oh, I think the distance from the front of the convention center and from the loading docks, I don't have a fancy Apple Watch or whatever, but I was 30 pounds lighter before I got to the convention, and I think I was probably 35 pounds lighter by the time we were done, as many miles as we walked. I think it was
I want to
8
shout
cents.
out to everyone that helped us carry stuff back to the van,
Yes.
packing up. Thank you so much, because if that was just me and Jason doing that, we might still be there.
Yeah.
Jason brought a lot of stuff. Thank you both for bringing the lion's share of everything since you were on wheels. But yeah, that was a lot of stuff. I didn't really realize how much you brought until we were taking it down.
Yeah, once it's spread out and you're looking at it, it's like, why did you bring that much stuff? Over prepared, but it depended. It's hard to prep for some stuff as far as like the land tables and the land tournament, because you just never know how many people are going to show up, and sometimes people show up with more terrain than expected. Don't always respond to the volunteer calls.
Yeah, well, we had about a 40% increase in registrations for the land tournament at the event, which kind of made it hard to plan. And that's really important because bringing enough terrain for land tables is pretty crucial.
Yeah, we also had display boards this year, took up a little bit more space. That was probably a 4-foot, 5-foot bin with all of the miscellaneous add-on stuff. So
yeah, let's talk about those display tables. We've mentioned them a couple times on the podcast here, but you and Fernando did all the work on those 16 by 16 inch kind of diorama-like displays. I thought those were a big success. They're kind of a lot of work for just a eye candy, but it seemed like a lot of people stopped to look at them. I wish we were able to base ourselves in them so we were able to catch people and chat with them as they walked by, but that wall issue kind of torpedoed our plans there. But I think those are huge, especially since we were up there and easy to ignore. Anybody who came in was kind of that made the whole Blood and Plunder and Firelock area more visible and pulled people in.
yeah, I mean, anything that is a good photo opportunity for people to take and to share or walk away or ask questions. But yeah, it would have been nice to be a little closer. I tried to kind of duck over there a few times, and several times during the tournaments there were people walking up and checking out. So that was still good. And once they're built, they're there for a while, so we can continue to use them in the future.
And Riley's banner looked awesome there.
And Riley, your banner is in my stuff. I don't know if you intended to take it back,
Sounds
but
good.
it got left
You can
on a
hold on
table,
to
and I brought it with me. So
Nope, you can hold on to it. It's all good.
Tried to get him to take it, but he wouldn't.
Well, I told Jason at some point I would give it to him, so this works out good.
Jason gets everything at his house. Your wife loves that, right?
absolutely. Moving on, demos. Dan, do you want to speak to some of the demos that you ran, or the experiences as a whole?
Yeah, so I was mainly doing C demos. That's kind of my niche. So that's what I did basically the entire 4 days, the first half of the day. And I find C to be a little easier to teach than land because instead of moving individual units, everyone moves together because they're on a ship. Apparently got a lot of good reviews from the Firelock guys and Mike downstairs. A lot of people who played the C demo went down and saw I mentioned my name. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was really easy. The first few were rough, but once I kind of found my routine and figured out my process to get through a demo quickly, I just kind of stuck to that. So I'm way more prepared for next year.
You look full of energy every time I looked over there. It looks like people are really enjoying it.
Oh yeah, I was very much full of energy. I drank lots and lots of the hotel orange juice before heading over.
How did the 4-player format and how did the forces work out? We worked hard on those all year long, trying to get them ready, and you painted them all, didn't you?
I did, and they look amazing. I was very impressed with how well they looked because people just kept asking, did you paint these? I said, actually, yes, everything but the ships on this table, I painted. So, yeah, the forces worked well. The British were dominating the first half of the con, but then I want to say on the last day we had a few Pirates players who really just kind of clicked and they kicked the snot out of them. So I think that's good.
Nice. Did they board, or was it kind of a shoot versus board kind of dynamic? Or
Every demo was different. I let them know, like,
Ah,
hey,
yeah.
I'm gonna railroad y'all through the first basically 3 cards. If we get to a 4th or a 5th card in our time allotment, then I'm gonna let y'all go hog wild. So I would basically just have let's say you're going to shoot cannons. If they wanted to shoot cannons, I'd move them in a position to go ahead and shoot cannons. If they just want to shoot muskets and board, I just had them go straight at them. Basically, just depending on whatever the player wanted to do. That way, everybody had fun. And then the last card of the first turn, which should be the end of the demo by that point, for people, I got to explain how command points work, and that's where people really kind of went, "Oh, the commander is really good."
Yeah.
Yeah, it went fantastic. I don't have anything to improve on for next year. It's just if we keep the same lists and everything, I can repeat. I know what my process is now.
We have them all boxed away. We're ready to just break out again, don't we?
Yep. I have the very I could kill somebody with the weight of the demo minis box.
The metal minis. Did you take the laminated force lists as well, or are they separated from the minis?
I have the lists.
Yeah, see, I don't think
Okay.
I have those.
Yeah, I think the format for demos this year was a very good change from last year, where it was a little more long form. This year we had a time limit. Get as much in as you can, and then get the next person in. So, and I think the hour was plenty of time for people to get an idea of what the game was and get an idea of whether they would like it or not. So, I think that was a good change.
You got through what? Almost 100 Blood and Plunder demos over the week. We had 16 going at once every hour. More than that, right? 16 4 times a morning, right? 8:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30. Yeah. That's 64 every morning, 3 days. That's 180, 190 demos if everybody showed up. That's massive. That's really good.
We probably didn't have quite that many because I think there were a couple of sessions that a couple of the tables were not full. So,
yeah, everything was full online, but being up on the 4th floor, I think we had more no-shows than average. I noticed that too.
Yeah, that's the theory, that people just couldn't find us and didn't show up. And plus, it rained on Friday morning, didn't it? So I think that might have contributed to people not getting out and going to things.
That was
Especially
unpleasant
if they had to
travel.
walk in the rain.
I think overall the demos that format is solid, and it gets, like you said, it gets people through in a fast enough time. So we have a higher rate of ability to show that to new people, and we had a lot of volunteers that not just from Blood and Pigment. We had Curtis Fraley, Jaden King, Jake Ferris, Fernando jumped in once or twice. I don't remember if Eric demoed. I think Eric primarily focused on Port Royal, which went really well. I helped with that too on the demos. We only had 2 slots for that, but we had eight people going through per slot instead of the 4. But it was really good. A lot of people coming through that had purchased the Kickstarter, learning how to play, and then a lot of new people. I know that there were several sales that Mike mentioned where we knew when the Port Royal and the demos were over because people were showing up. Same with Oak and Iron and Blood and Plunder. It was a good experience overall. And I apologize if I missed anybody's name on that. I appreciate everybody, every single one of the events. Their success is completely dependent on the number of volunteers we have. So, we couldn't, I don't even know how to play Blood and Crowns, but Tyler Stone and John Lundberg both ran Blood and Crowns events and looked great. Crushed it with that. Tyler also.
I don't know if John was actually there, was he? I think he provided
was.
the minis, but oh, really? Okay.
Cool.
But his tables. So there were some logistical issues in terms of setup. So his stuff got separated from Firelock because of the timing of the registration and the way that played out. But still had people coming and looking and asking. And then Tyler also ran some Blood and Valor narrative events, and Mark Lopez helped run Valor demos, so it was good to get exposure for those games as well. There were
they were right behind me, and it sounded like everybody was having fun whenever they were running them.
Oak and Iron, Josh Shivak was a beast as always. Dave Jessup and Josh S. stepped up and helped a little, and so we could do more if we had more people, and it's good to have folks, but hopefully next year we'll get a couple more just to add some relief to people that are volunteering and just continue to make it an awesome experience for everybody.
And it was really good to have the games in such close proximity, because I actually had a few people ask, hey, so if this is Blood and Plunder, what's that over there? And I can say, oh, that's Blood and Valor. It works generally the same way, but has a couple differences, and behind that is Blood and Crowns. Then when Rufus came up and set up Blood and Bayonets, I said, and over there was the recently kickstarted Blood and Bayonets coming soon. So it was cool to have most of us all in one little area that I could then point to all the different little candies people could try, essentially.
A block of tables was great.
Yeah. I heard that you and Riley did some historicals, Joseph.
Oh yeah, did we, Riley?
That was a blast.
I feel a little bit bad, so I'm going to apologize, Riley, for pulling you into this, because it was a ton of work, and I know you did mostly this, as I did. So thank you for all your huge efforts painting, preparing, and running them the whole convention. But that was your trial by fire.
It was good. Yeah, it was a lot of you're right, a lot of painting, a lot of test playing it beforehand, but it's a lot of fun.
So I'll do an overview, then you should talk about Deerfield Raid. We did 2 events, and Santiago de Cuba, Ming's raid on Santiago de Cuba, which is kind of a buccaneer raid in a Spanish town, and then Deerfield Raid, kind of more of a colonial frontier raid, Indians and French raiding a English town. There were 6-player games. We ran them morning and afternoon, almost every day. So we ran them 5 times each. One afternoon I had off. One afternoon Riley had off, so we could play in a tournament. So we got about 25 people through each one of them. Probably about 20, because there were some no-shows. They were longer games. We provided all the miniatures, had everything set up, and we had 1 table of each. The previous years we've run several tables all at once, kind of a big group experience this time to make it more accessible, so we could have all the miniatures and have the tables set up and not have to tear down, set up, tear down, set up. We just had the event going all week and people cycling through it. But and that worked well. It had some drawbacks as well, because it was kind of me and Riley were just doing it all week, kind of isolated from everybody else rather than one big group experience. So that kind of made me sad, but it was definitely logistically more feasible. How did your Deerfield raid go, Riley?
Oh, it went good. We had a pretty decent turnout. The first day, I think I ran 6 people total on each session. Second and third day, we're missing some people, so we did either 2 versus 2 or 3 versus 2, and then I would hop in as 6th. But it went pretty good. We did 2 English wins and 3 French wins overall. So I think that's a pretty good spread of wins, pretty even. But yeah, it was a good time.
French struggled more than we thought they would, didn't they?
The scout. The scout really was like the make or break for the scenario. Yep, the lookout. Yep, sorry, lookout. Yeah, definitely make or break. A lot of the French were able to sneak in if they played their cards right, which most of the time they did, which is pretty surprising. But yeah, it was a good time.
Yeah, I designed these scenarios, and I felt a little bit bad on that one. I learned some things on game design and convention expectations. One of the things I did is have to try to add some tension to it, is that all the English start to sleep. It's in the morning. The French or Indians are trying to sneak in. But yeah, sometimes the English will sleep for like 2 turns, which means they weren't really doing anything except for declaring their sleep actions for like an hour, which is not ideal. 6 players, even if people are moving quickly, it takes a while. So I'll apply that to anything we do next year and try not to have so much downtime.
Or you could just tell the English players, if you during these sleep terms, if you actually want to go to sleep, that's fine. We'll wake
That would
you
be a
when
kind
it's
of
time for you to roll dice.
a perk, yeah.
I think it would definitely lend good to a 1 versus 1 game, just as like a smaller scenario.
Yeah, Tyler was, or no,
Something we can figure out.
Jaden played through this scenario, and he was suggesting just cut all the units in half and make it kind of more of a small scale thing. So instead of having 6 or 8 models, you have just 2 or 4 models to change the feel and make it go faster, make it easier to play. So yeah, good fun to have good suggestions from other players after playing it.
Mm-hmm.
But thank you for making all those fort pieces and all painting 200 models look really great.
Of course. Yep. Thank you for helping supply some of
And
them.
thanks for spending all your time doing that. Santiago de Cuba was my Spanish town scenario. It was a 6-player game as well. And yeah, I had quite a few no-shows, but it was kind of difficult to not have full 6. So Don and Ian, who helped, Don painted most of the minis for this scenario, and Ian, his son, was there. They jumped in on several playthroughs, so we had our full 6 every time. But yeah, it was kind of 3 volunteers running it most of the time, which was kind of intensive on the staffing. So yeah, I played that scenario a lot. There were 4-hour sessions. I did it 5 times, so about 20 hours of gaming playing this. Actually, and then we played it one more time at the end of the evening, a bunch of the volunteers came and played it. Riley, you played it, and Jaden and Mike Tunez and me and Jason, you played, right?
Yep.
Sort of, right?
No, yeah, I did.
Yeah, Fernando.
Yeah. It was kind of rushed. We were trying to get it in before dinner, so we played several turns. Kind of chaotic.
That was so
But it
fun
was
to
fun.
watch.
There's a lot of yelling.
It was
from a certain
probably the
individual.
loudest game in the convention for us. What are those historical people doing?
It's just yelling.
We're giving actual command orders.
That was one thing I'll say about the venue that I didn't like as much is you could not bring outside food in, and so
Only if you sneaked
couldn't.
it. There was security
Yeah.
though looking for it.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like if you could have brought outside food in, you guys could have kept playing, and some of us could have gone out and got food and brought it back, and it would have been fine. But we got to plan out our food next year a little bit better so that we can game more.
Dan brought snacks, and that kept me going several days. So thanks, Dan.
Yep.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I
that was-
literally opened up. I tried to hide them. They opened up my big duffel bag, and the security guy just kind of sighed and said, "All right, go through," because he must have figured I was running something. Because he just opened it, saw the bag, just sighed and said, "Go on, you're good."
There was varying levels of
Nice.
enthusiasm for the security guys. Yeah,
Once I walked in with food and they didn't even say anything. I didn't know that was a rule.
sometimes they rejected
I
them.
guess it
Sometimes
depends
they
on
didn't.
who you got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But overall, my Santiago de Cuba games went pretty well, although I kind of made it kind of a trap where the Spanish are very weak, but they have a advantage over the objective. You got to grab these plunder tokens and maintain control of them. And the English are very strong, but have to work hard. They have to move a long ways to grab the objectives. And that's kind of what happened most of the games. The Spanish would get all the objectives and get shot to pieces, but in the session with the most objectives, so they would win, and the English would shoot everybody and kill everybody and feel like they were winning, but then they would lose because they didn't take the objectives. So I'd like to congratulate myself on designing a scenario that takes 4 hours and everyone feels like they lose at the end.
I felt just fine. I shot Mike plenty, and I got a couple of the objectives. I don't know what
We all
happened. to the
saw
other half
Jaden
of
was
my
having a
board.
blast.
He was Jaden was very intense, and he really wanted to
Barking
win.
out
I
orders.
mentioned that the English weren't winning very much, so he took it upon himself to make sure they could. And then I took it upon myself to make sure they couldn't. So it was I got a little snippy with them a couple of times, so I apologize.
Well, I think having Mike across us from the table, across from the English, definitely added that extra incentive to win for the English.
Yeah, Mike ate up all my fortune points. I was the Spanish commander, and just, every time he rolled the dice, like, I need a fortune. Like, really? Okay.
Did anybody
Oh, I
check to
missed them
make
all.
sure he wasn't pulling more fortune out of his pockets?
No, he was taking them
It-
all from me. I guarantee you.
Anybody pat him down for excess fortune?
I think he took 5 or 6 of the 9.
Yeah, and he still failed every
Oof.
like.
Mhm.
But yeah, playing it many times in an intense period like that helps you kind of refine things, and it's amazing how much Ian, Don's son, he's quite smart about setup and stuff, and he was noticing some patterns, and we just made some small changes and made kind of changed the whole dynamic of the game. I had Lanceros up front. I had Spanish kind of deployed in depth, and I just changed where these Lanceros were, and then it had been devolving into a big, huge melee meat grinder at that one flank of the board every turn, and just changing a couple little setup things can change the whole dynamic of the game. So it's fun to make little tweaks, but as far as the whole scenario design, if you're going to publish it in a book, it's hard to control every single thing like that for other people setting it up. But it kept getting better as the week went on, and working better, kind of more balanced and more dynamic. No major massacres, but yeah, the English won a couple times, but the Spanish won I think 3 times out of the 5. Mostly just because the English wouldn't focus on the objectives as much, because it's way more fun to shoot people than to pick up objective tokens.
Fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was less fun doing it by myself than having 4 tables all doing it at the same time, and everybody has this community experience. Is kind of the thing we are doing. It's much more. It's not as heavy work having just one table doing it, but it definitely was less of a community experience. But some people really enjoyed themselves. It had 3 friends come by and play it, and they said it was the most fun they had. It was the best game the whole convention, so that felt really good. But some people were like, I could tell their Spanish were thrashed to pieces. They were still winning, but they were kind of deflated by the end because they felt like they didn't have a lot of tactical options by the end, and it was a long game. So, yep, I'll apply my experience and try to make things a little shorter and hopefully more fun next year. Even though I think everybody had a good time this year, but
Yeah, I think
4 hours is a bit long for a game session.
the debrief, I think we discussed dropping to a 9 to 12 slot, just to, or 9:30 to, or yeah, 9 to 12. That way we get a 3-hour slot. It doesn't slog out quite as long.
Yeah.
And potentially doing 4-player tables. If we can get enough, it depends on what we do for the scenarios, but if we can get enough terrain and layout's good, I think 4 players per table would be a little bit faster, and then
Yeah.
playthrough would probably be a little bit more dynamic. And I think both of those boards, we kind of, again, it's a wall issue. We kind of made the mistake of setting those up too soon. We had to, but
We had
they
to.
were
It was
set up
8:30
a
in the
little bit-
morning. They had to be ready, and they took like 3 hours to set up, 2 hours to set up, with 200 miniatures, all the terrain.
Yeah, they were too far in the back. I would have been better to have those, because those were both very visually appealing boards. Having those up at the front of the
Yeah.
of our block of tables would have been a definite plus. There were plenty of people that once they saw, that you were drawing eyeballs and people over, just because they could see all of the buildings set up. But having
Yeah.
that at the forefront would have been good too.
Dawn packed a ton of terrain, and I brought a couple big. It was most of my huge suitcase was just those big, huge buildings, and I'm glad we did it. It was intense to get everything there, but I think it was nice to have a big kind of fancy table set up. A little frustrating that we had a lot of no-shows, so I had an average of about 4 players of the 6 every single session. So I was playing, and Dawn was playing, and Ian was playing a lot of the time. Fernando played once. So, yeah, difficult to plan if you don't know how many people you're going to have. So that's just a reality of life that makes it difficult. But yeah, glad I did it. It was fun. But I'm hoping to actually not run it so much next year, so I have a little bit more convention to actually enjoy, because most of my time was spent there. And Riley, you the same, right?
Yep. Yep, sneak away to the vendors a couple times, but majority of the time I'm there resetting stuff.
Hammering it out. Yeah.
Yep.
I did notice that mostly mid-level players played this. People who didn't, they'd done a demo or they had played a couple times over the last 5 years, but weren't really super into the game. But they weren't people ready to play in the tournament. So it was kind of casual players. We did require everyone to know how to play, and a couple people didn't, but they were like really good gamers and they picked it up really fast. So it was really nice to have experienced players. They have to explain the whole game, and there were more complex scenarios, but I felt everybody was able to wrap their minds around it, and since they knew the basics, actually play the game. So that was a good change, requiring people to know what they're doing.
Speaking of experienced players and tournaments, Garrett, do you want to talk about the LAN tournament?
Sure. So the LAN tournament this year, I volunteered to run that since I am not as much of a competitive LAN player. I like playing LAN games, not as much competitively, but I also enjoy running the tournaments, so I wanted to do that. And I think I got I was most proud of the way the tables were set up, I think, because I don't think anybody can complain about what table that they got on and that affecting how the game went, because all of those tables were essentially the same. If you like varied tables, you probably didn't like the way I set up the tables, but if you like fairness, then you like the way I set up the tables. So basically, it was 2 buildings on each end, and then just some scatter terrain and area terrain through the middle. Tried to do about the same amount on each table. Like we said, we got a lot of day of entries for the LAN tournament, and I think Jason and I were both really afraid somebody else was going to show up right at the last second, and then we were going to have to scramble to set up another table, because I think we had 23 people. It was
right.
an odd number, I know, because we had a bye, but yeah, it went pretty well. At the end, we had a like a perfect storm situation where a few players had the same amount of wins and also the same amount of strike point differential, and so we had to come up with creative ways to fix that and come up with a clear winner. But everybody played really well. I think I didn't hear any complaints much about players. I thought it was interesting that a lot of native lists and maroon lists were doing well. So that's good in a sense. I think, Joseph, you made the comment, that these land lists that are supposed to be good at land are doing well in the land tournament. So that's probably a good sign. So
I saw some pretty high level, intense play too. The people were playing well, and a lot of the people bringing the native and the maroon lists were kind of the analytical minds that see the good things and apply them. So I was impressed with the level of play and the forces brought, and the tight games. There was a lot of 2-1 strike point games.
Yeah, there were even instances of me being a TO, people doing things that I didn't realize that you could do. So, so there you go.
Yeah, two of my games came down to the last card.
I heard a lot of that, yeah. Even the top table games are coming down to the last card, last die roll. This little engagement makes the difference right here. Who won?
Off the draw, it was Eric, wasn't it?
Eric and Tyler won, but we had to award
Eric and
prizes
Tyler won, but
medals.
we had them draw a card off of a deck, and whoever got the highest card won.
Well,
I think it was Eric that drew the highest.
We said it was a tie, but we had to give the medals out, so it was a draw just to see who got the medal, not who actually is declared winner.
So Eric and Tyler won the tournament. Eric got the first place medal. Tyler got the second place medal. And then
And
we
then
got
was it Jaden that got third?
Jaden got third.
And the top lists were Eric was playing Church's Raiders, and Tyler was playing the Mosquito Zombo, and Jaden was playing English Raiders. All good land lists for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw some Maroons kind of high up there, and a couple of different native factions pretty high up there too. And then there's a lot of Spanish lists too. Spanish list with a cannon. You got to play that one, didn't you, Jason?
No, it was
Or
I
that
feel like
Fernando?
it was Church. I mean, I played the cannon, but I feel like he
Yeah.
had a Church's Raiders.
Yeah, I don't
list.
think that heavy gun was a Spanish list.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, it was
There
British,
were
wasn't it?
Spanish lists that had field guns, but I don't think it was that one.
Connor Fix, young man there who played a ton during the Summer of Plunder. He had some good lists and was rolling hot and doing really well. Good
He
player.
was definitely rolling hot. Oh man, he broke the statistical odds multiple times, shooting with 10 guys and hitting 2 or 3 times. I think 4 or 5 times in a row.
Fernando played him too and got a little grief.
I learned something new with that list. I didn't realize. I always thought that if you took a heavy gun on a field carriage, wherever you placed it, that was where it was going to sit, even for pivoting. I didn't realize you could pivot it.
Yeah, it can pivot, but it
So-
can't move.
Yeah, I always thought pivot was a move. So, but yeah.
Yeah, the last round that I played him, we played encounter, and so he got to set up in a basically
Diagonal corner.
in a diagonal corner, and he had a 90-degree arc that literally covered almost the entire board except the 12 inches behind him. So I just kind of sprinted down one side to try to get around him and use his own units as meat shields to keep him from
5
shooting
grape
random
shot
guys.
dice will find you out.
Yeah. So I sacrificed a unit of Jewish militia to kind of distract him, and then just try to sprint the rest of my forces up one side, and just kind of ran out of time. I think another round or two might have swung the game, but that's the nature of tournaments. You got to play fast and hard.
Yeah.
How did you enjoy
tournament-
your... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, how did you enjoy your tournament experience, Dan?
I really joined to try and prevent a buy if possible. I don't do a lot of Blood and Plunder on land. So I basically just brought my little Dutch cavalry list to try and test it out, and I'm not worried about cavalry being cheap now, because every time my cavalry poked their head out and shot at somebody with carbines, they got absolutely obliterated from the return fire.
A lot of dead cavalry over the whole tournament. There's a lot of cavalry
Lots of
there.
dead cavalry.
But I did smugly notice that... Not smugly, but I was kind of relieved because I was afraid of cavalry domination too, but there was no cavalry at the top tables by the second round or the third round. They're mostly mid-level.
Yeah, it's only because I wasn't allowed to bring him. No.
You were advised not
I
to,
was advised
allowed.
not to. Don't fire pot 2.0 this tournament.
That was my advice.
Yeah, I think the jury's still out on it. I want to play some more cavalry lists, but yeah, I definitely think there are ways to, especially if it's just 1 or 2 cavalry units in your list. I don't think they are so overpowered that it's going to affect your game that much. So
Fernando did pretty well with his, but I saw most of them dead by the end too. I think they're just something that people visually and emotionally fear, so they just shoot them, and they're hard to hide, so they always don't. It's hard to get cover on them, and the cover's always bad. But there was a lot of cavalry. It was cool to see. But you really went hard mode with cavalry and a lot of pikemen, right?
Yeah, the pikemen only really did their thing in one game. Otherwise, they just died. Even with armor, they still just kind of died, but it was fun. My intention for playing and registering was just to make sure, if anybody had to sit out, it was going to be me.
And then ultimately, ended up with a bye anyway, right?
Yeah, see, I tried.
Yeah, I'm glad you played. And it was a big tournament. 25 players, 23 players, 24 players, something like that.
23.
Double-digit players.
25 or 23. I don't remember. It was 12 tables, wasn't it? So it would have
Well,
been
maybe it was.
25?
I think we set up 13 just out of paranoia, and then ended up only using 12. I think
Okay.
that's right.
I think it's 23, yeah. One as 5 through 28 on the spreadsheet, and one of them is a bye. And Riley had to suffer through the bye once. How was your tournament experience, Riley?
Well, it went all right. It's my very first tournament ever, so I'd say success because I showed up and I played. I did not win, which is kind of expected. I borrowed Eric Goebel's list because I didn't bring one, so I didn't intend on playing. So I made the best with that, and yeah, she fell apart a little bit, but it's all right.
Were you? That's a hard list to run. Was that the
Yeah, it's a
bunch of
technical
regulars
one.
and small units?
Yes.
Mm.
Yep. Units of 5, 4 units of regulars, and 2 units of grenadiers.
Budget pros.
Yeah, I forget who I played. Against my third game, but I was starting to piece it together, but still lost the very last turn. But yeah, my first game was pretty bad. I was used to telling people how to play the narrative game, so jumping to I need to win this was a little bit rough.
I see you had 4 strike points, and there's not many ways to get strike points except for getting killed. Does that mean you got tabled?
Yeah. Yes.
Some more
It was
salt.
it was
Put
a
that in your
table
wound
for
if you
sure.
don't mind.
Yep. Yep.
Who did you get to play?
Yeah. I don't remember actually.
You remember what force? Who killed you? Oh,
No. Tyler Stone was my first game. That was the
it's a
day
tough
with,
draw.
with his
Yeah.
mosquitoes. Yeah. Yep. And the third game was the Morgan Buccaneers.
Those are both rough lists to fight against.
Yeah.
And especially
Yeah, Tyler went on to win
It
that
was
thing,
fun,
so
though.
good job.
yeah, especially when you're playing a list that you're not familiar with.
That's technical and tricky to run, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So was that
Yeah,
your
even if
first?
you don't win, hopefully it was fun and you learned some stuff. But yeah, if you bring your own list next
Oh,
year
yeah.
that you practice a little bit, that'll make it a little easier to jump into. Thank God you played.
I'm sure any form of practice would be a good idea.
Yeah. Was that your first ever miniatures game tournament, or just first for Blood and Plunder?
No, that's very, very first ever tournament of any
Okay,
sort.
cool.
Yep. So I had a good time. And everybody was very friendly, even getting my butt
Yeah.
kicked. Very nice.
Sometimes you just
Had a
have
good
that
time.
bad draw at the beginning and things go sideways. Like that's a thing that can happen. The situations that I always enjoy / don't enjoy is when you have a good list, you have a good list, but you lose the first game, and then you get paired up against somebody that does not have a good list, and then you have to
You
look across
mash
the
them.
table and say, "I am sorry for what I'm about to do to you."
I've done that, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's a newer player and they don't know what they're
Yeah.
doing, and you have a trick you're gonna make. Yeah, I did that with my poison arrows list once. Newer player at sea, and I just dumped poison arrows on the whole turn. They basically rallied the whole game. I'm like, I'm sorry, this is gonna happen. It's gonna play out like this. And it did.
Well, let's move on to the C tournament real quick. I was the TO for that. This is the first year we bumped it up from 200 points to 250, which, in my personal opinion, and it seemed to be the general sentiment, I think that was a good move. It kind of frees you up to spread your force a little and to take a little bit of a different route in the shipbuilding aspect of being able to use more than just the basic starter sloops or 2-deck ships. 2-deck ships were still viable, and we still had several people take them. We had a couple people take 2, or even Christian Bush took 3 Barco Luengos, which was interesting tactic, and
And he did well.
He did well. Yeah. I think he second or third.
Second, I think.
So his list was again, Christian is a good strategic thinker, so he had a very focused and specialized list, which is always, from my personal perspective, is good to see in a tournament setting. You know, I like to see people push the rules a little. Because it makes it. I like to stress test the game, and tournaments are a good opportunity to do that, to help improve and to make the game better, so that it works well in a non-competitive scenario. But the tactics across the board were pretty varied. We had boarding lists, we had cannon only lists, we had musket only lists, we had blends of each. Some people taking light cannons. We had one build that took a galleon with, I think, 5 heavy cannons. And leaned into that hard.
Oof.
Which there was some rough outcomes in that, but he lost to Tyler in the first round. Tyler managed to weather the cannons and get the board in, and I think he won just from the strike point aspect. But yeah, the galleon with heavy cannons was rough. I know he sunk 2 of the 3.
I think he blew Dexter out of the water too.
Yeah, unfortunately, Dexter's second round was a little rough. I think the first salvo dropped one of his Barcos to 1 fortitude, and then the second salvo he got 3 leaks on critical hits on the second shot. So there's not much you can do to repair or salvage that. So one ship went down, and I feel like the second ship succumbed to fire critical hits. I think he had some, and they just spread it to the point that he couldn't fight him, if I remember right. We had at least two different powder magazines go off with critical failures from catastrophic hits. We had at least one ship get demasted. That is one downside of a 2-deck ship. A lot of them only have Bermudas, Landras, and the sloop only have a single mast, so it's a risk.
That's when your sweeps come in.
Yeah, if you took them.
Yeah.
There were 2 ships demasted. I did both of them myself. At least.
I was going to say, I knew there was at least one. I was thinking there was 2, but I like the 250 range, and I think we'll probably do that again next year.
Yeah.
So.
We should mention that we upped the land game to 200, and that was a good thing too. I saw a lot more historic and legendary even commanders. I think it frees people up a lot, and it was a good choice in both counts. So thanks, Jason, for pushing for that.
Yeah, the land side of things, I like the 200 point just because it lets you get 2 support units typically.
If you want it. 6 units is pretty hard still.
Yeah, you can do it if you want to. So that, and again, it gives you the larger commanders. I definitely like seeing those, and there were a lot of people that ran a commander other than the standard generics, which
what I was hoping for.
It adds some flavor to the game, and several of them are really good. You get into situations where some of them have 3 command points, and that can definitely change the outcome of the game for sure. Anybody want to speak about their specific experiences in the sea tournament?
I had a lot of fun.
Go ahead, Dan.
And won.
Yes, I won this year with a 17th century no cannon list. I'm very proud. That's what I set out to do. It was a lot of fun. I only had one kind of feel bad moment, like mentioned before, because I think second round I was playing Colin Tozier, and he told me that he hadn't played since June essentially of last year, having to explain how my Marineros are going to hit on 2 ups on that dedicated fight action thanks to Ruthless. Felt pretty rough, but I think he had fun.
Boarding list, right? And he sailed right at you, so he kind of
boarding and small arms.
Your hand
I
a little bit.
more muskets than dudes with just like melee weapons. But yeah, that was the goal. Is I saw he had cannons, I deployed creatively, and he matched me.
And he came straight at you?
Yeah.
You boarded on turn 1?
Yeah, after he let loose a cannon salvo, and it did some damage, but it didn't kill anybody. So
killed nobody? Wow.
Yeah, well, not that even if he killed some people, I had 57 models, and he had, I want to say, like 30.
Oh no!
So it was
57 is a lot.
Yeah, I figured out how many models I could fit on the light frigate, and the goal was to cram as many on there to off-put cannon casualties. And I think, hello, this is Dan from the future. I was very sick while we were recording this and got the name of my third tournament opponent wrong. I want to go and correct that. It was not Robert Montgomery. It was Kyle Hilliker's English Buccaneers list and light frigate armed with medium guns. Want to go ahead and just put that to rest. Sorry, Robert, and sorry, Kyle. I am terrible with names, and my brain at that point was more snot and mucus than actual brain. So just wanted to put that in there. Robert Montgomery, my last opponent, I think he hit me the hardest with cannons, and he knocked off an entire row of hull fortitude, but again, didn't kill enough dudes. So took that hit, boarded, and then it was just three or four turns of brutal hand-to-hand combat.
I don't want to interrupt you, but I want to recommend just to commend Robert Montgomery. He's came by and played at my store the week before the con, and he had his intended D list, and we played, and I gave him some suggestions, and he improved his game a ton between when I played him before the con and at the con, and he helped out with some historical scenarios. So big thanks to him, and a well done for his play. He won a game or two during the tournament, and played a good game. I don't know how you played it in your game. He must have lost if you won, obviously. But
what really killed him was on turn 1, I drew an event and we got light rain. So that means that everybody's guns, cannons or otherwise, were only going to go off once. But big shout out to Josh for trying to do the mobility kill in this sloop. I know he tried his darndest and was very unhappy when I figured out he was going to shoot me with chain shot after I took the initial brunt. I dropped my sails down from 5 to 4 and then just went right at him. And after that, it was run away, stay away from the boat full of guys. It was a lot of fun.
There was a thing about chain shot and sails. People were looking at the strike point options. Everybody wants to maximize their wins and stuff. So one of the ways you can get a strike point on somebody is to drop their sails down to, or their hull down to half of the starting fortitude. But people didn't read it as carefully as they might. It says rounded down, which means if your fortitude starts at 3, it needs to go down to 1. So you don't have to get 5 hits. You need to get 10 hits on their rigging to get it down to 1. So that was his whole strategy going in, but turns out it didn't work because
he tried his darndest. He was shooting at my rigging with muskets and swivels and cannons, and just when I dropped the sail setting down, he was like, "Why would you do that?" And I was like, "It's a tournament." And his little interceptor Parago was terrified because my boat was packed to the gills. So they just kind of stood off and gave me kill points. It was really funny.
Josh is great.
Did anybody keep track of how many Santiagos we had over both tournaments? Felt like we had a lot.
That was fun.
5, maybe?
One person would yell Santiago and everybody else would chime in.
Yep.
Fun group experience.
At least all the Spanish players.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lower your sail setting on chain shot is one of those. That's a good example of a good reason to read your rule book, because it extends the lifespan of your ship if somebody starts targeting your rigging. So I'm not telling you the page number. You just got to go look that up.
5 sounds right.
Feature tag.
And then in my last game, I used a wearing action to get that 4-inch turn to really position myself. And that's, again, it's in your rule book. Read your advanced maneuvers. You'll never know when they'll help.
Josh did a box haul, or was it like 3 in a row, something crazy?
Yeah, somebody else did that. That
3
was
box
great.
hauls in a game. Yeah. He had never done an advanced maneuver prior to the tournament. He stopped me as a TO and asked, "How do you box haul?" And he had the option to either box haul into a board or box haul to avoid getting blasted. And he dodged, and then he ended up box hauling twice more during the game. And I don't remember which one, if he did tacking or wearing in the next game, but he ended up with 5 advanced maneuvers across the 3 games, having gone into the tournament never doing one.
Hell
So,
yeah.
You learn a lot at a tournament.
Love that.
From desperation.
So, yeah.
That was
a fun one.
Getting a 4-inch turn on a light frigate is awesome. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Really enjoyed myself. It was glad to get the win after getting curb stomped and my teeth kicked in last year. So I've checked that off my list. Next year I can bring something really just kind of stupid and silly.
How does that metal feel around your neck?
It feels great. I can't wait for all the Spanish players to be upset when I bring Austin Privateers next year and use Dutch Santiago.
Santiago.
You can. I won't be upset.
Still counts. You're flying the right banner.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
turn to the dark side. How about you, Garrett? I heard you played a jerk for the first round.
Yeah, it was it was one of those things where he tried to outshoot me even though I knew he couldn't, and then he tried to board me for some reason, and he just died on pikes. It was a weird game.
What idiot.
No, I played Joseph at the beginning, and that was a good game. I think that might have been the best game that I had during the tournament, because we both brought similar-ish lists. You were in a flute, and you had Guzman. Did you bring Guzman,
did.
or no? You brought somebody else that had
At
fast
English
experience.
Buccaneers with
That's right.
John Morris. Yeah.
But I'll let you talk about your list. But my list was a light frigate with 5 medium guns, 2 units of marineros on the guns, and then 2 units of marineros piqueros there for repair actions and boarding defense. And I thought everything worked out pretty well. I would have had a shot at top tables on my second game if I had rolled a little bit better, I think, because I can't really point to anything in that game that went south for me, except for I just didn't get the kills that I needed, or like the critical hits that I needed.
Was that you and Eric sailing at each
That
other
was me and
doing
Eric.
the historically accurate line fight?
We found the distance that we both wanted, and we just sailed next to each other, blasting each other with cannons, and neither one of us did all that well at it. And so it was
Eric's a good player.
0-0 draw at the end, because
Wow.
neither one of us like damaged each other that much. He had thought he was getting a strike point on my rigging, and like close to the end of the game, I was wondering to myself, I'm like, why is he not shooting at my rigging more? And then I was like,
He read it wrong too.
I think he thinks he already has the strike point, and that's why he stopped. And so I felt a little bit bad for him on that, because I was like, well, should I tell him? Like, it's a tournament. I mean, he should know these things. But anyway, he won anyway, so I can't feel too bad about it, because he killed a few more of my guys than I killed of his guys, and so he moved on. And then I played a sloop. Eric was one of the ones that I demasted, and I was disappointed that demasting someone did not give that person a strike point, because I was thinking that might push me over the edge, but.
But it depends on the ship. If you were to immobilize it, so on the sloop you get the strike point because it's completely demasted.
He was
Single
able
one
to
on
cut
a light
it free.
frigate isn't quite enough.
So there you go. In the third game, I played the guy with he was playing some kind of buccaneer list. He had 2 mediums and a light on a resin sloop, and some musket guys. And I didn't bully his list, but it was a list that I knew going in. I was like, I've got a very good chance of beating this, because I've played this a lot against this, and this 5 mediums really shreds these 2-deck ships. You have to, I think, to play against the light frigate with that kind of list, you have to have 3 medium guns on that sloop, and then you've got to get some early good rolls to get ahead of me on shooting. Because otherwise, if you don't, it's just going to snowball on you.
So a lot of light frigates, and that 5 fortitude is a major benefit in a tournament setting.
Or you can do like what Joseph did, realize that you're not going to win the gun battle, and then change your strategy, which almost worked out for you.
It could have gone either way if we kept playing out another couple turns.
Yeah, it could have. It really could have. That was a closer game. Both of my first 2 games were really close. But yeah, I didn't have a bad opponent in that tournament. It was it was all fun. So it was great. I think I placed 5th overall.
Yep.
Mainly because that last game I was able to get like 9 or 8 strike points to 0 or 1. So
He
my
had a
strike point differential was really
10
high.
point strike differential, yeah. And Dan had an 8 point strike differential. That's pretty brutal for the top spot. Good job.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to Mike before while I was building the list, months ago, and he was giving me good advice of, Ruthless also doesn't turn off in melee, so you don't necessarily need pistols in a boarding list if you got enough guys who hit on low numbers. And that's what happened.
Spanish blades.
Having 6 units with sailors also means I can do advanced maneuvers and repair. When Josh was shooting at my rigging, I kept repairing it, and he was so upset with me.
That new version of repair was seen a lot. You can actually restore 1 point of integrity with a repair action. I
Mhm.
saw several people do that. You did that, and Garrett did that, and I did it once. That was fun.
Yeah, that was basically all my Marineros Piqueros were doing was repairing the ship and looking mean and nasty for people that were thinking about boarding me. And when I was playing you, I feel like that they are what kind of pushed it to my favor was the pikes.
Yeah, I outnumbered you in that game. I had 50 models, and you had in the 30s, I think. So I was hoping my numbers would weigh in, and they would have eventually. It would have helped, even though I kind of sent some of them in to die just to tie you up. But yeah, I did play John Morris, who has vast experience. I had flute with 2 cannons each. So I was hoping I would ranging shot, miss one, reroll it, get it, and get all my ranging shots, or at least a higher proportion of them. But vast experience didn't work out in that game, did it? How many 2s and 1s did I roll?
A lot. I almost played Guzman in that tournament, and after I played you, I was like, I like Peralta better. I like my tough. Not one of my
Yeah,
units
that's
been
good.
shaken the entire tournament.
Wow. But yeah, I kept missing, and then if it hit at all, it'd be 1 cannon, and then I'd roll 3 dice and get like 1 damage, and then you would repair it over the next turn. So like, this is not working. So yeah, I chased you down in a flute and had to grapple. I just knew I wasn't going to win on the. I was bummed to go up against you in the first round of the tournament because I knew one of us was going to lose and not make it higher. So, but that was a fun game. Frustrating for my intended tactic just did not play out. I couldn't get any hits on my cannons, which is annoying. But it was fun to be able to play you because sometimes the volunteers, people running stuff, never get to play each other for the convention. I didn't get to play Jason or Dan or anybody else, but nice to get a game with you. Second game, I played a guy who had painted up a cool flute or sloop with this whole voodoo theme. He's a really good painter. And he hadn't played very much, but he had read the rulebook really carefully. It took a while to play. He was very technical and trying to be very careful to get everything right. And he read some rules very literally and brought up some issues that need to be changed a little bit as far as their wording. Most importantly, the false colors rule. So I felt a little bit grumpy about that. But he played well, and we let him use his wording was correct. Mike was standing right there and read that. Like, oh, it's not what it's supposed to mean, but that's what it does say. So he was interpreting that correctly, as far as grammar goes, is he has to move within 12 inches of me to trigger the false colors turning off, but it doesn't count if I move within 12 inches of him. And that changes the game a little bit.
Yeah.
And he did a good job maximizing his first strike attack. He had 3 cannons with grape shot and all his swivels. And he just blasted and got a lot of damage on him. He then he wasn't able to make his final board that would have done really well on that alpha strike because of the sloops. High gun whales there. And then it was kind of a meat grinder beat down for a couple turns with melee. And I won that round, but it was pretty close. It was just the alpha strike is crazy and especially if I can't turn it off with. But so yeah, that false colors wording needs a little tweak to make sure it's clear and clean. But for being a brand new player, He was very meticulous and had read the rule book and was prepared for the tournament, so that was nice. So that put me at 1 win, 1 loss, and then I played Connor Fix at the end for my third game, and I enjoyed that game most. We had kind of mirror list in some way. Both had a flute with cannons. He was playing William Kidd, right? William, right? So he had a heavily built. I had heavily built, and we both drew 2 events at the beginning. So we did all 4 events before the game even started. And we had 2 weather changes and wind changes. Put me in the eye of the wind before the game started. It's a little crazy beginning. And then we were just sailing like crazy. I had a privateer flute. I had sailing master. We were just chugging along. We scrolled the board 4 times at least, maybe 5. It was crazy. But it was kind of an attrition game where he had heavily built. And after my first broads, I just decided to go grape shot because heavily built is too discouraging. And after my experience with Garrett, I didn't have any confidence in my vast experience. So I just tried to depopulate his ship, and it kind of did work. I had 50. He had something around 35 models or so. So I just kept targeting his command unit, trying to get them shaken. I deleted his command unit twice. He kept jumping his big commander. And I ended up winning that game. Finally got to a boarding action the last turn. We played all 6 turns. He was really a good player, played fast. It made for a really fun game, and I appreciated his energy, and it was really a lot of fun. I was glad to play in a tournament. That was kind of the main event I got to play in for the week. Thanks for running it, Jason.
You're welcome.
We didn't see any massive cannon meta we were kind of afraid of.
Yeah, I think that the change to motivated and resetting the reload tokens whenever you unassign was definitely a good change in the last errata. So that cut down some of the shenanigans with hot swapping crews and firing insanely fast.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's pretty much everything. I don't know if there's anybody has any parting shots on overall content from Adepticon or anything they saw, or
we should just call out the winners for that tournament. Dan won, we talked about that. Christian Bush got second with his triple pirate Barco list, and Tyler Stone with a flute with Last Buccaneers, and Buccaneer Tactics got third. Tyler did well at everything.
Yeah, Tyler got 2 medals. So,
Were there 3 medals for the C tournament?
I just know I got 1.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I think the issue is, so whenever you sign up with Adepticon to qualify for medals, it's based on the number of sign-ups at the time of the end of pre-registration, I believe. So if people do not pre-register ahead of time, it affects the number of medals that they pass out. Because we had several of those late registrations and walk-up registrations, they can't make a medal ahead of time.
Right,
so
right.
We only had 2 for the land tournament, I believe, and then 3 for C because of the, again,
pre-registration. The story is everybody should pre-register so we get medals instead of doing it.
And send in your list early so we can start sooner and on time. Hint, hint.
Did a little better maybe, but we still didn't get some of the lists at all, and I have to sort through the papers, see if we have any of the ones that we can't fill in, but we'll do a report on it with any data we can from the various lists.
The Oak and Iron tournament went well. We don't have Josh here to talk about running it, but I played in it and enjoyed-ish my 3 games. The first one I got scenarioed. I gotta work with Josh on, if we're doing an Oak and Iron tournament next year, work with Josh on getting tournament scenarios for that game, because there are some scenario he was doing just a straight pull out of the scenario cards. Some of those scenarios are not fun when you're a defender.
They definitely have a swingy effect of whether you're attacker or defender on a couple of them. Especially if you have not built a list that's optimized to it. So
yeah,
you don't have enough ships, or your ships are too slow. There's certain scenarios you better hope you have a good admiral to make up for it.
Picking scenarios is hard. We took some risks and played it safe on one or both of the Plunder scenario tournaments as well.
Yeah, a new scenario pack for Oak and Iron would definitely be a welcome thing, not just for tournament play, but just in general for the game.
Yeah.
Maybe in second edition. Oh wait.
We'll see.
Cut that out. Cut that out.
And you played in the Valor tournament, right?
Yes, I did. It was fun. I got absolutely rocked. But that was mainly because I wanted to play on some of Dexter's tables, which were not good for my force because I couldn't bring my full army to bear because I once again spammed as many little Russian conscripts as I could, but it was fun. And when talking to Rufus, he said every time he's run a tournament, a different list wins. So I think that says a lot.
At least the photos of your death look good, right?
Oh yeah, fantastic.
Terrain
Loved it.
looks good.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Who won the Valor tournament?
I think his name was Kevin. I'm terrible with names. He was running the Austro-Hungarians, I think,
Gotcha.
and he was a good player. He absolutely kept me pinned in everything. It was good. It was fun. It's always fun.
I saw your gas attack go off. It looked pretty good.
You mean the gas that landed on me?
Oh, was that on you? I thought.
Yeah, because I rolled a 1. Jerk. Rolled a 1.
MVP for the opponent.
Spent my fortune. Rolled again. Oh, I guess I'm sucking my own gas today. That's okay. That's fine.
I saw I hit somebody else one game. I think. Maybe it was somebody else, but
Yeah, it was fun. Next year, I'm probably going to bring the stuff that I actually wrote for Valor because I hadn't finished painting, and it's not exactly an optimal list because it's meant to defend against melee. But for some reason, people are afraid of melee in Valor. I'm not, but other people are. So next year's just going to be a showcase. But this year was fun. I don't know if any of y'all looked at the Crowns events that Tyler ran, or the Valor event. He was running the Death of Chivalry 1453 with the experimental canon rules, and it looked a lot of fun. People sound like they were having a lot of fun.
Yeah,
yeah, it looked like a good time over there all the time.
The narratives, it seemed like nobody had their head down and waiting, looking at their phone. Everybody seemed to be fairly engaged every time I looked over there, so that's always a good sign.
Yeah, he ran that one, and then he ran for Valor the Terribly Reckless Fellows with the U.S. Marines attacking the Bellow Wood. It was really, really funny because I guess the Americans get a rule where they can re-roll a failed resolve check, and despite the fact that this group of German guys were beating the tar of the Americans, they were like, why are they even rolling? They know they're going to pass, even though like they're winning. Really, really funny to watch that. And again, just great to have the other games represented. I love that we had more of that this year. Hopefully next year someone will run Steel, so we'll have everything there.
More of everything this year. It was massive. How many total people did we get through events? You calculated it out, Jason?
Oh man, yeah, but I didn't write that down. It was 240 something, I think.
That was just the Plunder events, I think. I mean,
oh yeah,
that's
you're
just
right.
Demos, basically. It was over 400 registered.
Yeah, it was definitely some serious growth. This is the third year in a row we've tried to organize in it, and I think we're more than tripled.
Big props to you for all the organization you did. That was intense, and you're really good at that, and got a lot of people involved and planned out events well, so you're able to get through a lot and help a lot of people have a good time.
Yeah, well,
Yeah, we're definitely getting better at it.
that it helps when you got people to.
And it's mostly Jason's fault.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
No,
how dare he make us more efficient?
That's the German kicking in. No, seriously though, having all of the demo stuff pre-set up, having all of the forces pre-painted, the narratives pre-painted, that made a huge difference. Having things already set up ahead of time, and all the hours that you folks put in on the prep work.
Yeah, Riley, Don, Dan, Fernando all did a massive amount of painting for those games.
Yep. So
Yeah,
hopefully
it was
we'll set up
way
for the
less
future.
stressful this year.
And having just having a couple of last minute cancellations on quartermasters last year definitely made it a little chaotic trying to fill the gaps for everything. But we learned some more things for this year, and so next year's I'm going to predict we're over 500 people, and we'll hit 20 quartermasters. That's what I'm going to push for.
I bet we will. We had like 17 this time, so.
We're gonna take a U-Haul van next year.
Have to buy a cargo topper or something, or
Yeah.
I wanted to ask Riley how he felt about it at his first convention, first big convention, right? You've been to a couple teeny tiny ones locally here, but how did you feel about big first event you were involved in? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, that's exactly it. It's very big. I think the first night we kind of just went straight to our little corner. But when I had time, it was fun to go and explore was it 4 floors, 4 different floors.
You packed up a lot of cool
So
things, yeah.
it was a lot of fun to go wander around and see all the different vendors, different games. Didn't get to participate in a whole lot of them, but they're definitely fun to look at. I gathered up tons and tons of business cards. I packed my suitcase as much as I could with little
We had a
goodies.
rough ride
but-
home.
Speaking of, it's a great segue.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun to just see all these other gaming groups,
other
and
conventions
fandoms
coming up
and
as far
other
as
stuff.
events.
So,
I
it's a good
don't know
time.
if anybody wants to run through that?
Definitely
or
hoping I can go again next year, if not some
How do you
other
say that? I
big
can.
conventions.
Enfilade? Is that
If
how
you're
you
from
say
the
that?
South. Infilade if you're French. Yeah.
Enfilade? I'm sorry.
That was
That's
awful.
over there in May 23rd through the 25th.
Akuma.
Enfilade, May 23rd through the 25th. That's Tacoma, Washington. I've actually been to Tacoma, Washington. Fun fact.
Oh, yeah?
That's the only place I've been to in Washington. Well, I drove there, so I've been to a few places, but anyway. Historicon.
Hey, that's Infilade. Let me talk about that real quick. That's
Oh yeah,
Riley
go
and
for it.
my kind of local convention.
Cool.
So we're running some Blood and Plunder events there. It's kind of an old school wargamer convention, so all historicals, but it should be a good time. So if you're in the Northwest and want some Blood and Plunder, want to see some big tables out, we'll be there the
Thoughts and
24th. That's Friday
Pretty
night,
good.
23rd, and Saturday. We'll be there most of the day Saturday, running some events. And there's some day of sign up, so if you can't get in because events are full, show up. You might be able to at least get you a demo. And Adam, there's a outfit really booming up in Seattle. Kind of did a lot of Blood and Plunder and good group starting up that's jumped in and done a lot of the planning and prep. Going to do a couple cool scenarios, and Adam and Brad are kind of leading that up this time. Horton Brothers.
So next up we have July 15th through the 20th. That's going to be Historicon, and that's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I think the only one of us that's going to be there from the Pigment team is Fernando, possibly.
He usually goes.
I think he usually goes. I know Tyler's probably got some stuff planned for that. That's his big convention I think he goes to. So I'm sure stuff is going to be going on at Historicon, and I think Firelock is going to be there.
Yeah, that's the big
something that we
news.
didn't talk about. Is Firelock is going to be doing a lot more events this year because they have partnered with a game store to run their booth this year.
Griffin's Lair, they're helping him out, getting a bigger presence at more conventions. And they have a whole list of conventions they're going to be at, and that will help kind of set the stage for quartermasters to come in and do more events. So hopefully that'll up the presence at conventions for events and product.
Yeah. And then next after that, July 31st through August 3rd is Gen Con. This is my convention that I like to go to. I'm planning on running a sea tournament there and also a couple of tables of the what is it called? The fleet battle scenario. So bring a ship, bring a list, and we'll have just a brouhaha in the middle of the ocean. After that, NashCon, August 14th through the 17th, so a couple of weeks after Gen Con. That's also pretty close to me in Nashville, Tennessee. close to Jason, both Jason and I, and we've been talking about we are probably going to run some stuff at NashCon this year, especially if Firelock is going to be there. So be on the lookout for some announcements for that. But it's only 2 hours away for me, so it's probably going to happen.
I saw Jason put up a poll about interest, and looked like a lot of people responded as interested in a variety of events. So I expect Jason to organize another 100 events.
Well, that convention is a little bit different because they force you to be in 4-hour time blocks. So the max you could possibly run is 3 blocks a day. So, and I think they only run 2 blocks on Sunday. They may run 3 blocks on Sunday, but currently I'm probably 75-85% sure I'm going. I just have to square away the logistics with the rest of the household, if you will. Tentative plan is to run Port Royal demos Friday morning, a narrative game for Blood and Plunder of some sort, or on Friday afternoon. Friday morning we'll run
Saturday.
Port Royal, or Saturday. Saturday morning we'll do Blood and Plunder demos in the morning, and then possibly a sea tournament that spans the afternoon, and just do 2 to 8, so a block and a half, and people can just get out early. So that's the tentative plan. If I can get the logistics worked out, I'm going to try to decide here in the next couple of weeks. Try to let Adepticon cool down a little before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still got to unpack some stuff. I hauled it all upstairs, but it's just kind of in a big pile.
Yeah.
Then after that, we have August 27th through the 31st in Washington, D.C. That is the Nova Open. I believe that is pretty close to Fernando and Tyler as well, over at Dead Man's Chest. I believe they're going to be running some stuff there. I'm not as familiar with all the quartermasters in that area, but I'm sure there are things planned for that. If you do have plans for those, message us. We'll get them a shout out on the podcast.
Timothy Stone is running some tournaments and events there. He is asking for a tournament pack. I think he's planning to do some serious events there, so it should be a good time for Blood and Plunder. He sounds quite serious and well planned, so it should be good.
Awesome.
All right, we're wrapping up here. A couple things we want to mention as far as maybe new product or opportunities coming out of Firelock Games. We got some new miniatures. We got the cool starter packs for Port Royal. I don't know, maybe Jason can talk about these. He might know more about them. Do you know much about them?
Yep. So there's a starter pack for all 7 factions. They will have 6 minis. One of them, I think, has 7. It will be resin minis, so you just attach them to the base. Has a starter force pre-built with a unit card and all of the rules on the back. There's several new sculpts in that. Yep. Sorry. For the pieces of 8. The Maroons have, I think, all new minis. The Natives have a couple of new ones, and there are a few other sculpts that are kind of snuck into the other ones, or there are some new freebooters that are coming. And I think one of those made it into the English faction. A new Dutch commander who has a pistol in his hand instead of pointing at the sky. And I can't remember the specific, but there's a few. I think there's a new mini in almost every one of them, or a slightly different pose, or a weapon removed to just give them a little bit different flair. So I think every faction has at least one new mini. Some have 2 or more.
Yeah, the sculpting has been kind of crazy. They've been getting tons of sculpting done at Firelock, and a couple new things are coming out soon. The Roundsmen. These are pretty cool, badass-looking pirates. Fancy clothes, maybe missing some teeth. I think they're going to be released maybe by the time this is out, but not sure. But look for that. There's the Drunk Pirate Mini that was handed out at Adepticon. Mike was giving those to everybody. Definitely not Jack Sparrow, but maybe slight random resemblance. But a good drunk marker. I don't know when that's going to go get totally available for everyone, but it's a pretty fun mini if you can get it. And then we got the organized play kit for Summer of Plunder in process. Should be fun. There's going to be quite a bit in there. More minis than last year. We got the cards off to print. Hopefully it will be in people's hands before the event starts. That would be a bonus this year. Working hard on it, and there'll be some fun new miniatures, and we aren't going to tell you what yet. and new cards and poster and all fortune coins. There's going to be an original 18th century fortune coin in the first 100 organized play kits that go out too, so that should be fun. And that's all we need to talk about as far as new stuff. Other events to watch out for. Painting contest is wrapping up. This is the last month, April. You can enter your Blood and Plunder ship or force of 25 Blood and Plunder miniatures that you painted up this year. Kind of big prizes for those, or a force of 5 or more Oak and Iron ships as a little fleet for our last categories for the Great Parrot Paint Off. And then we got Summer Plunder bearing down on us. Anybody else want to just tackle that real in 30 seconds?
Summer Plunder is hard to jam into 30 seconds. It's a worldwide global campaign. We've got a campaign map that controls 30 different locations in the Caribbean and Northern America. Every player has the option to join a specific nation. Every week we count your points in the games that you've played that lead to an overall victory and controlling all those locations on the map. But we have a new Discord server that will be coming out soon that people can participate in and strategize and plot and plan and just have a good time and take pictures, play games, earn credits for prizes, and we give out a ridiculous number of prizes. Just have a lot of good fun. Details on that soon. I've got about 75% of the article written. I'm just trying to get the final things for like the organized play kit and a couple of minor tweaks in there.
Riley's serving as English and second in command, and Dan is retiring from pirate leadership and to being our prize czar this year.
Working hard at it.
Be lots to give away.
So for more Blood and Plunder content, you can go to bloodandpigment.com and check out all the material we have over there. We have articles on ships, nations, factions, terrain, painting guides, battle reports. So go check it out.
And check out our YouTube channel as well. We'll be getting a YouTube video up of this event with some pictures and commentary. And we got other things going out there sporadically. And if you appreciate our content, stuff we make, and want to help support us, get more prizes out for events and stuff, our Patreon is available. You can throw us some money there from $1, $2, $10, whatever you want. We appreciate it. Really helps out. Support the community overall. We spend all the money on you guys.
And as always, keep your dice ready. The win at your back, Yarrharr.